Hey guys, I'm John BenderWaffles Aljets, and today we're gonna live stream. Live streaming is an amazing way to interact directly with an audience while also providing them with fun and engaging content. But getting going can be a bit daunting at first. Trust me, I helped set up and run a live stream for a small internet news outlet a while ago, and I know how much of a pain it can be. That's why I'm gonna help you out with a little tutorial to get you going. We'll cover streaming from a computer to Twitch, YouTube, and even Facebook using free open source software. So with all that said, let's head on over to my computer to get started. Okay guys, so to get started, we are going to go ahead and we are going to download the Open Broadcaster Software, or OBS. You can download it from a link in the description. There are two versions that you have to worry about. There's Studio, which is the most current, and then there's OBS Classic. Now, personally, I prefer OBS Classic. It's because it's what I'm used to, but I actually would not recommend it because it is no longer in development, really. Studio is the latest version. It's the one that they are supporting. So I would go ahead and download a copy of OBS for whichever operating system you use. Note that Windows is the one that is updated first usually. So if you're using a Windows machine, you might have access to things that the other versions do not have yet. But don't worry, they will get them eventually. So once you download and install it, this is what your software looks like right out of the box. As you notice, there's nothing on screen, and really this whole interface just kind of looks pretty simple. You have your scenes down here, which we will get to exactly what those are in a second. Sources are where your inputs for the video or for the audio are coming from. You have your audio mixer over here. We have desktop and mic audio currently set up. When you have more sources, there may be sliders for those sources, depending on what those sources are. Scene transitions, as you're moving between scenes, you will be able to set it up so that they can fade or just straight cuts or whatever it is. Then you have your controls over here in addition to controls up here. And then this is a preview window of what you're actually live streaming. Now, I said we were going to get to scenes. Scenes are, imagine if you're using like a multi-camera setup. Scenes is each different camera. So you can have a scene, like, let's say we have scene 1 and scene 2. So scene 1 can be looking at your monitor, while scene 2 could be looking at another monitor. And you can switch between them so that you can change up what people are seeing. Or maybe scene 1 is your Let's Play that you're doing or whatever game you're streaming. And scene 2 is a full view of your camera for when it's loading or when something's going on in the game that's not super exciting. Maybe you'll switch to another scene just to kind of change up what it is. This allows you to do different, for lack of a better term, different scenes within a live stream. So if you are live streaming for a news broadcast, you might have one scene that's your live talent in the studio, and the other scene is a toss to a remote anchor or something like that. So we will cover that a little bit more when we get into actually using sources and things like that. But first thing we're going to do is we are going to actually set up the actual settings for OBS. Now, a lot of these settings are going to be very dependent on what your own computer hardware looks like and what your internet speeds are like. And you can figure out your internet speeds by going to speedtest.net, and that will give you your download and upload speeds. The number that you need to be paying attention to is your upload speeds, because that will give us the amount of speed and the amount of room that you have to work with when it comes to actually streaming. But for now, we're in here in the settings. On the general panel, for the most part, you can just leave these alone. You can change the theme if you want to, I guess. I am kind of more of a fan of the dark theme, but that's just me. So we're going to go with default, and we are going to go into the stream tab. Now, this is where you actually set up where you're actually streaming to. So you can either do a streaming service that is known, Twitch, YouTube, Hitbox, Dailymotion, Facebook Live, all those sort of things. Here today, we're going to be talking about Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, because those are the most commonly used places to stream to. But you can also set up a custom streaming server if you have a different service that you want to be streaming to that's not one of the well-known ones that's listed, you can get the URL and get everything set up in that panel. But for now, we're going to be doing streaming services. Now, for Twitch, all you really need is your stream key. And to get your stream key, you just go down here and you go to your dashboard. And then you click on stream key. And when you click this button, it will give you a little message being like, are you sure you want to see your stream key? Don't show it to anybody, blah, blah, blah. And then you click a thing again and it gives you your stream key. I'm not going to do that because if you guys see my stream key, you guys will be able to stream to my channel. So you never, ever, 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 ever want to give people access to your stream key. Never email it to anyone. Never show it on stream. Never do anything like that. Stream key is extremely important. In most pieces of software on most websites, that stream key will actually be replaced by just dots unless you specifically click something that says show it. So again, I'm going to stress this again. No matter what site you are streaming to, do not let other people see your stream key. Just don't do it. So anyways, for Twitch, all you got to do is just grab the stream key and then paste it into this box here. And you see, as you see, there's that show and hide button. And then there you go. That's all you really need to set up to stream to Twitch. For YouTube, it's basically the same sort of thing. You go to your live stream panel. If you go up here, click on your little face, go to Creator Studio, and then live streaming, it takes you to this page. And on this page, you can set up stuff like change your thumbnail. You can give it a name, give it a description. You can schedule a stream if you want to use the events tab instead of just streaming now. You can do all sorts of stuff, like you can set it up to be able to record it so that it is saved to your channel. You can monetize it. You can add cards during your live stream, all of that sort of stuff. So once that's all set up, you can again reveal and grab your stream key. Again, don't show it to anyone. Do not do this while you're streaming. Do not show this to anyone. I cannot stress that enough. Take that, copy that, put that in there, click apply, and boom, there you go. You're able to go. For Facebook, things get a little bit more complicated. When you're on your page, you basically just go to videos, video library, and then click this live button. Now, they don't hide their stream key. If I wasn't blurring this right now, you guys would be able to see the stream key, which is fine because Facebook stream keys are only valid for a limited time, and once they're used, they're available for a much, much shorter duration. It's valid for, I think, about 7 days, and then once you use it, you have about 5 hours, I believe. So you basically just get all your information from here and then click next. And that's going to take you to this window. Now this window, you add your title, you add your tags, you deal with your advanced settings, which you can do stuff like stop people from embedding it places, don't save the video when it's done, you get your stream key from there, you add a description for when you or like the comment that gets posted on your page. So, you know, that's all good. And if you notice, it says offline here. Well, Facebook works differently than other streaming services. You actually have to start streaming within your software, and then you'll see it here, but you're not live yet. You then just click go live, and then it goes live to Facebook. So it just adds in an extra step that you don't have to do with the other sites. Realistically, there's not a ton of a reason to be streaming to Facebook Live using this setup. If you were a larger news network, then maybe this would be a good way to go. But for the most part, if you're live streaming to Facebook Live, the actual Facebook Live like phone app works perfectly fine. You'll be more than set to be able to go. And in fact, when it comes to Facebook Live, studies have shown that people prefer that sort of lower quality phone look because it's a little bit more like comforting. It feels like less of a production. I don't understand it personally, but that's what people tend to like. So maybe Facebook Live for this isn't the best way to go, but still, you know, it's good to know how to do it in case that's something that you need to do. So anyways, within the software here, so we're going to be just pretending like we're streaming to Twitch. That doesn't matter. Go to output. Now you have 2 different output modes. Simple, if you don't really understand what these settings are, simple is perfectly fine. Advanced, if you want to tweak things a little bit more, is the best way to go. For now, I'm going to be showing you guys how to do advanced because there's a few more settings in here that you might want to mess with. But again, simple could be perfectly fine for you because realistically, the only thing that you need to be paying attention to is the bitrate, at least at this point. So when we're in here in the advanced, audio tracks, this doesn't matter. Encoder does sort of matter. So you have, at least on my system, I have the choice between X264 or NVENC H264. I have this option because I have an NVIDIA graphics card, which is allowing me to use the onboard encoding of the actual graphics card to be able to do this, which sometimes when you're, sometimes the stream won't be working real well and you'll get like stuttering video, or the video and the audio will be desynced and stuff. And sometimes that's an issue with your CPU not being able to deal with all of the massive amounts of information that needs to be encoded and then sent out, which is why it's sort of important to have a powerful enough machine to be able to do this. If you have a CPU under a quad core, you probably shouldn't be doing this. And even then, there are some lower end quad cores that you probably should not be doing this on. But if you do have a lower end CPU, but you have access to something like NVENC, it could be potentially a sort of stopgap solution for you. But for now, we're just going to stick with X264 because my computer can handle it. So going down here, rate control, you have a couple options. The only 2 that are really going to ever come into play is CBR, which is constant bitrate, or VBR, which is variable bitrate. I like to stick with constant bitrate because I don't see a need for my bitrate to be shifting at any point in time, but sometimes you might want to set that up. But for now, we're going to stick with CBR because for the most part, people are going to be using CBR. And this is the bitrate. This is what you need to be paying attention to the most. By default, it's 2500, which means that is 2500 kilobytes per second. So that's 2.5 megabytes per second. That's what your bitrate on the actual video stream is. The lowest that I would suggest going, at the bare minimum, if your upload speeds are just not good enough or your computer is older and just not able to handle it, would be 1,000. If you have to go under 1,000, I don't think that it's worth it. Like, I think your video quality will be bad enough that you're really not going to be sitting pretty. 2,000 to 2,500 is about what you're going to be expecting from a 1080 at 30 frames per second video. So 2,500 is a good place to sit. I actually would suggest somewhere around 3,000. At least that's what I use. So that's what I'm going to go with. Keyframe interval. You don't really have to mess with this. You just don't. There is some like more advanced situations where this will matter, but for now, as this is just the basics, that's perfectly fine. CPU usage. Now it's pretty self-explanatory. Your CPU or your processor will set the priority for the stream. So the default is very fast. The higher up you go, the higher priority it's going to be, and the faster it's going to encode, but the more resources it's going to use. So as you go down, it's going to use less resources, but you're going to start running into situations where you're going to be dropping frames, or you're going to be seeing a massive lag between what you're doing and what appears on stream. So just for now, we're going to stick with the default because it works. I have not yet had to change that personally in any situation. But you might have to. That's one of those settings that you can play around with if the stream isn't quite acting the way that you want it to. But for now, that's perfectly fine. Now, we're going to go to recording up here. You can use OBS to record your screen or to record games. So it's a good alternative to something like Fraps if you do Let's Plays or if you do tutorials like I do, OBS will allow you to actually just record your screen, and it can record your stream as well. So you set up your file path, it's sending it to my videos, which is fine for now. Recording format, nobody uses Flash video format. In fact, Windows 10, the media player basically refuses. So I would change that. I would go with MP4 or MOV. Sometimes I've seen people use MKV, but it's not super common. I choose to use MP4 because it just works well on Windows 10. So that's what I'm going to go with. Encoder, you can set it to use the same encoding as the stream, or you can change it to NVENC or whatever other options you have here. I'm going to stick with the stream encoding. So you can rescale the output. Not super important. We're just going to leave that. Over here for audio, you can change the audio bit rates on the different tracks. Again, as I mentioned, depending on your sources, you might have other tracks. So, but 160 is perfectly fine. You really aren't going to need to change that. It's just simple. Going in here to audio, this gets more into the sort of the nitty gritty of what's going on. Sample rate, 44.1 is kind of the standard that most devices sort of stick to. And it's been common with audio for the vast majority of sort of the time that this technology has been around. 44.1 is what you sort of just need to stick with. There's no real reason to change it. Only really audiophiles are going to be able to tell the difference. And I don't think that anyone really has a huge audience of audiophiles. And for the most part, like stream audio is going to be not that great anyways, so you might as well just stick with the default. Channels, stereo, it's perfectly fine. Why would anyone use mono? I don't understand. Anyways, so now we get into our audio devices. So you have your desktop audio device, which is actually recording the sound from your computer. So that's basically just whatever device you're using to get sound. The default is usually whatever the default on your machine is, but you can also go in and get specific, choose your specific device. So for me, my default is actually the Samsung Studio GTs, but I'm going to leave it on the default because, again, that is the default on my system. You can set a secondary desktop audio device. If you have multiple different audio outputs, you can set a second one. So that's definitely super nice. Then you have your microphone. Again, the default tends to be the one that you use. Whatever your system recognizes as the one that you use tends to be the default. But again, you can get specific. For me, it is the Samsung Studio GT input. Then you also, I have the Rocksmith USB guitar adapter plugged in. Oh, I guess I do. All right, so just set it to the default. Although if you're using a sound capture, like an Elgato video capture device, you can choose that one. It's a perfectly good way to go. The default. And actually, for microphones, you can have multiple different microphone inputs, which is nice if you're doing something like a podcast. You can be sending everything to OBS and be mixing within OBS, and that works great. You can set up the delay on your push to talk and push to mute, which we'll be getting to push to talk and push to mute here soon. You can also set it up so that you can mute the desktop audio if you think that you're going to be coming into a situation where you want to mute the desktop audio. So now we go over here to video. This is just kind of getting into some of the more simple choices here. So the canvas resolution, what is the space that you're working with? 1920 by 1080 is pretty much the standard. The output, the default is 1280 by 720. 720 is kind of I would say the bare minimum resolution that you need for video at this point. And even then, it's still not great. So my advice would be immediately kick it up to 1920 by 1080 if your machine can handle it, which most people's machines can. FPS values, 30 is perfectly fine. There may be situations where you want to kick it up to 60, but for now, 30 is perfectly fine. Then hotkeys. This is cool stuff. You can set it up so that when you push a specific button, it will start streaming. Push another button, it stops streaming. Pretty simple stuff. Scenes down here, if you have multiple scenes, you can have multiple hotkeys for different scenes, which is super nice, again, if you're dealing with like multi-camera setups and things of that nature. This is where you set your push to talk and your push to mute, or you can just straight up push a like toggle mute, toggle unmute, all that sort of stuff for both your desktop and your mic audio. Advanced, for the most part, you can kind of just leave this alone. This is where you set up the file name structure for your recorded pieces. That might be something that you want to change. Other than that, for the most part, these settings can be left alone. Process priority, you might want to mess with that a little bit, depending on if your video is stuttering and things of that nature. But again, you can pretty much just leave this panel alone. Okay, so now that that's all set up, let's talk about setting your sources and actually going live. So we have our scene, and that's all well and good. For now, we're just going to have one scene. Let's go over here to sources and let's click add, and let's get it so that you can see the screen. So we want, I believe it's a media or monitor capture, display capture. So different sources will have different options here in this menu. Click OK. And now you get a properties menu, and you can change which display you are showing. So like, bam, now we're seeing my second monitor, which is currently running Reaper, recording our audio. Or bam, my third monitor, which is currently actually recording the video. And by the way, that right there, that's the old style OBS that I'm using. Just fun little thing there. But we're going to show this monitor and click OK. And as you see this red box around the source. You can use that to change the size of the display. So say that we wanted to be showing that display, and we wanted to be showing a little window in window of, let's say, my second display, so that we can see like what's happening. And we're going to put that like right there. So now you can see what's happening on my main monitor and what's happening on my secondary monitor. Let's go real crazy here, guys. Let's go mad with power, and let's show you guys my my third monitor. So, oh yeah, now you can see all three of my monitors. Isn't that crazy? Let's go real nuts and let's move stuff around. Okay, that was enough silliness. And then when you're all ready to go, when you have your sources all set up, when your settings are all ready to go, and you are ready to go live, you just click start streaming. That's it. You click start streaming and you're live. So that's the basics of live streaming. Pretty simple stuff once you have a grasp of it. So I want to know, what are you guys planning on using live streaming for? Why not leave a comment down below? I'd love to hear from you, and I want to see what you guys do with it. And while you're down there, why not give this video a like and consider subscribing? Also, you can click on these buttons on screen to go to other videos on my channel, or on that little round thing to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.